People in life are trying to figure out how to make a life worth living and retirement worth having. In my case, I'm just trying to figure out how to live safely. You see, there seems to be someone who is attacking my life based on my genitals. And the reality is, no one has the right to see them. In your particular situation, do you drop your pants when you walk in an establishment? When you walk in someplace, do you display your private parts? When you go somewhere, do you tell people how big or small or what color or what texture or what anything that you have? And I hate to be graphic because I'm not trying to be pornographic. What I'm trying to say is that there's someone in the force who just thought that they would mark down something that's very, very private to me in a file. And as a result, my life has been harmed, stalked, hazed, harassed, and literally exposed to a lot of people. My medical rights to the privacy of my private parts, my private situation, have been found guilty by people in a religious right, as opposed to protected for the fact that the Lord God gave them to me for the sharing with whoever I choose, however I choose, when I choose under free will. There is some monstrous man who thought he had the right to use an audio file to try to manipulate my opportunities to sleep, or manipulate my opportunities to function, or manipulate my rights. Now, when I talk to you about this scene in my film, how do you feel? Do you feel it's an intriguing idea? Do you feel there are technologies in other lands that we don't know about? Do you feel it's right for you, as a total stranger, to know anything at all about my medical health in such a private area of my life? You see, when we're talking today a great deal about the crisis, the medical crisis, we're not always thinking about who created the crisis. The truth is, did a Chinese scientist release something on the world in a hope to dominate the world? Did a Third Reich out of Germany reestablish itself to try to take over and create an Aryan race? Did a Russian group trying to control our elections decide that this time around they would just kill off half our population so that their impoverished people could come over and move in? Did the Mexicans, who utilize unique and unhealthy warfare in their world, such as drugs and other things illicit, come through and decide to try and kill off our population so they could literally, illegally and immorally cross the border? You see, it doesn't take much for one mind to start to taint other minds. It doesn't take much for one person to get other people to do illegal and immoral things. It doesn't take much for a man to say, I'm going to control that person's life through all of these things. These are the great ideas in the science fiction and the special effects films that most of us flock to the theaters to see. But what if it's being played out right now in our land that Indians or Muslims are trying to eradicate our race through this illness? Since I've been in this particular city of Champaign, my hands have been painted in the middle of the night. I know because I was sort of awake and sort of asleep, by someone who gave me an illness on my hands. Thank God that the Lord above had said no to that illness, and my hands started to heal. Since I've been here, I've had food that was tainted in a gift from people. I've also had food that was tainted that I purchased fully with my own income, my own financial resources. You see, people who come in from foreign lands aren't taught when they come in as students what our rules and regulations are of the FDA. They're not taught what American life is. They are taught what American life can be. They come here with dreams of living in the land of prosperity. They come here living dreams of their own religious or sexual freedoms. They come here from different countries that have different morals, different values, different rules, and most certainly different religions. In our life, we have to decide who gets to cross the borders. Not at all. That is for the politicians to decide. But long ago, the presidents of old made a decision that in order to come here, in order to be here, in order to become a citizen, you had to have some lineage here, and you had to have some understanding of the laws of the land. So when politicians are in uproar over what's going on at the borders, they are sort of forgetting our history of America and why we protect our borders. We protect our borders so that illegal people and immoral people don't do horrible things to their children, like many of these people who have been caught at the border have done. They have literally created a genocide of their own peoples because they did not come with any preparations to care for their own children. The separation of the children and parents was probably done to try to make sure that the children were possibly better cared for. It could have also been a retaliation of, hey, you're going to break our laws, then we're going to take away your children because you have just created a criminal act and you as the adult is responsible. At the same time, it could have been a malintended opportunity gone awry by someone who said, I'm not going to care for these children, why should I do that? You see, on a regular basis, I might be on a corner, sitting down because I'm old and frankly tired sometimes. Just like you sometimes may feel old or tired after an exhausting run, a long walk with the dog, or perhaps a long day of work. But I'm considered immoral by some people because they don't know my situation of how I got into homelessness. They don't bother to ask, but several who are thoughtful do try to help. But in general, people don't. They just walk by with their group of friends. They don't say a word and they continue on with their money, with their power, with their delight of purchase to buy meals that they could provide for themselves at home at 1/3 to 1/4 to 1/6 the cost. They of course entreat themselves to wonderful restaurants, and things still going on are doing that. We have several groups of Asians who have some sort of ownership of different types of businesses who have conducted business as usual since the epidemic began. They haven't really barred people from sitting in their restaurant. They haven't really barred people from doing things. And it's true, if we order in the house because we're paying as we should with American money as opposed to plastic fake money, that literally we have to pay attention to our own care. Any person who buys a food at a restaurant is still at risk because of how allegedly this virus works or doesn't. But when I make this recording, I started with an interesting concept of who has the right to your genitals. You see, my genitals have literally been put on display with hundreds of people that I would have never shared anything about them with. It's sort of a form of pornography that someone in an establishment thought that instead of handling the legal situation based on what it was, an accident that went awry, where I simply had to pull something that had fallen on me out of the car. And that man lied and pulled a weapon on me and then alleged that I did something to insinuate that I was going to harm him. That man was a federal bureau man, and he should have known better than to pull his weapon over a car accident. He fled the scene, yet I was punished. You see, there's always an immoral person who's willing to lie. The problem he is probably facing now is that he may now be ill from his own lie before the Lord God Most High. I can't say because I'm allegedly not able to go near him, and the truth is, I don't even remember what he looks like. It's been so long. But a judge thought she'd start to attack my mental state, and my lawyer thought they'd put things in place, or someone in my family, or some total stranger to me thought they would take something and put it on file. When I was outraged about that privacy invasion of my medical health, I couldn't get them to stop. I couldn't get the prosecutors who were allegedly free or the defenders who were supposed to defend me to stop with their belief that I was somehow mentally unwell. But they made those decisions based on their religious feelings about what someone had told them illegally and immorally about my private medical condition. There is no other way to say it than the truth, that the people who photographed me when I was put in jail had no right to ask me the questions they were asking because they didn't understand what they meant underneath the technicalities of my medical health. Either way, federal law applied, and those local people, those black men and black women who had no name badges at all in a sheriff's department, didn't regard federal law 1 second. They didn't regard my birth certificates at all, and I believe they destroyed them. They openly never returned them to me. They had no lawful right to take them without recording them in a document, and they had no right to take my religious goods or my journal. I still don't have any of that property back. They might have stolen it, they might have destroyed it, they took wedding rings and other things, but the truth is that the immoral people who continue to attack my life have violated our federal laws. They have violated medical rights, they have violated human rights, they have violated people's rights, they have violated every right that a human being of America is expected to regard, and frankly, other nations too. You see, underneath the Human Rights Declaration, which I've talked about many times, we have rules, and those rules say, I am in charge of my medical health care, not you. And someone, when I was here, literally took 2 weeks off my life and thought they could pretend that wasn't true. So if there's any document anywhere here that does anything at all about my medical rights, it is a major lie perpetrated by multiple people who violated my body and practically raped me. In life, we have moments of time to speak the truth, and the truth is that immoral people do immoral things and create illegal acts. The reason I am vehemently opposed to people walking across the border is not only because I had to jump through so many hoops to try and follow all the laws that were required for a special friend of mine to visit America for a period of time and become a lawful person to be able to be even employed here, that it's also because that what I have experienced of people who have come here illegally, and my friend did not, that the illegal people literally continue to do illegal, and more illegal things. They don't care about our rules. They don't care about our mores. They don't care about our laws. And that's a dangerous situation for every American in the land. Our entire environment is impacted by these international students who throw away literally hundreds to thousands of dollars of items that could be naturally and gently recycled. The programs of recycle are incredibly poor. Our environment is taking the toll. I've watched American men, white men, open one of these e-cig packages and just throw it on the ground. It's littering. There should be a fine. But where are the people to handle that when time? You see, it all blows about, it's true, during a storm, especially when we don't have good storage units for it all. And especially when we don't have caring men like sometimes you see who have high regard for our earth and for where they work. But mostly what I see are people trying to take away people's liberties. There are groups of men who literally walk outside the minute that I walk by, and I think, who the heck are these people to even know I'm even in the vicinity? There have been several people who've tried to walk up and feed me with things they thought that they should purchase for me, and I thought, do I walk up to you and do that to you? So while my talk is sort of changing its ideology, it's all about the human right to say no. It's all about the right for me to say, this is my body, and I will do with it what I will, and I will research it with my own physicians, and I will handle my human rights. And you don't have any right to it as a total stranger to my life, as someone I'm not planning to have sex with, as someone I'm never planning to marry, and how dare you think you have the right to go into any American institution and tell them something about my life that you stole from my life to destroy my rights to my manhood. The American Constitution already pronounced me a man long, long ago, despite what I'm publicly sharing, that I have a birth defect that is mine, but some monstrous man in law enforcement got horrible information from a relative who didn't understand the laws of the land, that once someone is pronounced something, it's done. It's not up for grabs. It's not up for constitutional change. It's not up for some group of people to start to render an opinion on because they illegally and immorally drugged me and photographed me. So if there are actually photographs being shown around town, it's pornography that has been established through drugs. Now we come back to the scene of my film. We come back to the consternation in your mind of, does someone have rights to your body? Do you, as a man, a woman, or child, have the right to forfeit your rights to a total stranger? In other words, do you do that on a daily basis? Sure, there are women who wear sexy items. Sure, there are men who take their shirts off and their shorts off and publicly expose themselves like derelicts. But the truth is, we have laws that allow us to protect ourselves, even if we have to toilet in the middle of nowhere, because during this health crisis, nobody allows their restaurants and their restrooms to be utilized. A public restroom is a public restroom. But if it's closed, where do people pee? If people are not allowed in, where do they defecate in the middle of the night? And frankly, I hate to be so bold, but this illness and its handling is becoming ridiculousness. Many people feel so because every day more and more people with cabin fever leave their homes and come out to participate in life with the world. But the premise of my film is who has rights to your body? We have too many politicians, too many religious pastors, and too many men in particular, white men in particular, trying to walk across to someone else's house and tell a woman or a man like me what I can and can't do with my body. And that is immoral. The Lord God made them all is something we sing in Bible school and in Christian churches across the land, and yet there are immoral men in those houses who think they have the right to tell a total stranger what they may and may not do under free will or medical will with that body. We have to start talking about the real issues of this election. The real issues are not what someone's sexuality are. The real issues are not what someone's rights are exactly. But the real issue is, what type of land are we? Are we pornographic, that we expect people to walk into any public establishment and show their private parts? Or are we simply a nation of modesty and high regard for an individual's right to choose safety for those very precious things that the Lord gifted us to share in a loving relationship with a partner in the privacy and dignity of our own home, or a place where allegedly we have the right to be intimate with someone else, such as a hotel room, a motel room, bed and breakfast, where people do sleep and do, I hate to say it publicly, but truthfully, have sex. You see, in life we have immoral people all over the world that put in hidden cameras that have done so illegally under every international law of the world that says people have the privacy of rights to